Hey fam, welcome to Transition Tuesday, where we answer your questions about being trans and we help people be trans. We help you with those questions and those things that are nagging at the back of your brain about being trans. I'm Lilith Elektra. That's Amanda Bonanza. How you doing, Amanda Bonanza?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Lilith.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be
really
here.
Well?
I'm happy to be here at the Transverse answering these transgender questions about transgender experience, and I'm happy to help people to the best of my ability, which maybe won't be very much help at all, but maybe it will be.
Quite an answer to how you doing.
It's all true.
And that's the truth. I don't try to put out that like I'm an expert. Like, people ask questions and I just want to give honest answers. And like I always say, when it comes to asking questions, like at the end of the day, you have to live your own life. You have to make your own choices. And I'm happy to like answer any questions and let you bounce things off me. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to chart your own course. Set your sight on fun.
That's the damn truth. Ain't no fucking real roadmap for this shit. Everyone transitions in their own way, and it is up to you. Like there's some guidelines that are, everything's optional though. You can go right into the settings and tweak anything you like.
It was like building a Dark Souls character.
Yeah, Fallout. Every time I play a video game, like first thing I do is I go into the settings. I'm like, I don't like that. Get that out of here. I'm doing it this way. You can do that with your gender.
Okay.
You should.
Just add a little more estrogen.
Trans or cis alike.
Just slide everything up.
Be who you want to be.
What a crazy notion. Insane notion. Just be who you want to be. Yeah. Be yourself. You want to answer a question today?
I love that, please. Thank you.
Well, I got a question right here.
I love questions.
Or is it here? I'm going to look. There we go.
It's the opposite of what you think, I think. I don't know.
But if I look this way, I'm looking the way my fingers are.
If you look at the direction that you're looking, that's the direction you're looking.
Well, there we go. Yeah, it syncs up perfectly.
I don't know how it syncs up. I was like, I know. I remember I pointed the wrong way in a video recently, and like it made me feel dumb.
It's computer magic.
It is, because it's like you do the reverse thing on the Zoom, but then you don't know if it does it that way, and it puts things on different sides. It puts us on different sides. Like I don't know how it works.
I've been telling people to mark in the comments. Should I be going in the comments? Are the comments up there?
No, the comments are below.
The comments are down.
Sure,
okay,
for sure.
That's for sure. If they have any questions, put them in the comments.
Put them in the comments.
If you listen to us answer this question, you're just like, these two don't know what they're talking about. You can put your answer in the comments. And, it's all about getting the information from everyone and making an informed choice and helping yourself and taking those next steps. So I think we've gone over this enough. I'm going to look over here and I'm going to read this question. And this really isn't about the transitioning per se, but it's about some stuff that I think we all deal with when we transition. So
I love to hear it. I can't wait to hear this question.
How do I forgive myself for not transitioning sooner? I was figuring myself out when I was about 15. I had a chance to do something, DIY hormones or anything, but I even waited an entire year to put myself on the waiting list to get E, which then took another 3 years in total. By the end, I broke and did buy hormones to take myself, and I've been on E for 2 years now, officially after switching over. However, I still forgive myself for not doing more. I sort of pass, but I am really tall and far more masculine than I would have been if I started then. I was still growing taller and masculizing then. I remember when I realized this, the horror of what I had let happen. I had to compartmentalize, and I still haven't been able to deal with it. I feel like a total freak now, and I still have severe dysphoria because I just don't feel like a normal woman at all. I generally just don't know what I'm supposed to do. I thought when I was 15 or so, since I was so young, I'd be able to transition young and live a relatively normal life. I can't believe it's 6 years later and I'm still in this hell because of my own mistakes.
So many things out of the gates. Just, you got to forgive yourself. You didn't do anything wrong. It's no small thing. It's hard. It's scary. You got 1,000 voices at you yelling at you that you shouldn't do it, that it's bad. It's not any of those things, and you should. It's not a small decision to make, and you can't ever look back on the past and live in that way. And like, well, what if I did it different? You don't know how it would have gone if you had done something different. That's not how time works. You know how it went because of how it went. Who knows? Like, you could have gotten, the whole butterfly flaps its wings. You could have done it, and then that could have sparked some outrage and someone could have killed you or whatever it is. I'm just saying, because you took estrogen and you felt really good one day, then you got hit by a bus or something. Like, you don't know how something would have went. Like, you can only speculate. We tend to assume that things would have gone exactly how we would have liked them. And despite the fact that we know that nothing ever goes the way we exactly want it to go. You're still transitioning early on. The question asker said something that I understand, but I want to just clarify here. They said, I don't feel like a normal woman. You are a normal woman. Being a trans woman is normal. There's nothing irregular about it. We're people and we exist, and you are a normal woman. It is fine. And I want to just clarify that, just both to the question asker and to everyone out here that's listening or watching. Don't ever think that you're less than because you're transgender. That's not it. That's not right. That's not where we're trying to get to, or anyone here.
Obviously, the first thing is like, how do I forgive myself? Is like, you just have to accept, and you do have to forgive yourself. Like, the past is the past. We make choices. You said that once you finally did get on the list, the waiting was 3 years. So if you'd done that right away and still waited 3 years, you'd still have regret about waiting that 3 years. And every person alive can go back and look at points in their life and pick it apart and wish they could have done something, wish they can go back and change. And honestly, all we have is like this moment right now. What's the next thing we're doing, and how do we make sure that's in alignment with who we are and who we want to be? We can't go back, and like having an acceptance of that is the first thing. Also, like, I see this a lot where like people are like, I'm really tall, and it's like, there are tall women. Like,
there's lots of tall cis women also, and in fact, a lot of the most beautiful or like societally deemed classical beauty model women are on the taller end of it. If you go to Amsterdam, the average height of cis women is around 5'11" to 6'1". It's awesome being tall. I'm tall. I'm 5'11", which is tall. I tower over many men. It's great. Being tall is awesome, and I love it.
I'm 6'2". I tower over even you, and I would say on the average, I don't even notice people's heights. I would say like this: you put in there like that you're sort of past, but you're tall, and you have these masculine features. Like, if you're talking about passing to people who hate trans people, like, you're never going to win that game.
Yeah,
whatever you cross off the list, they add something to the bottom of the list that's like, oh,
J.K. Rowling say about gametes or something. They sit up at night trying to find things to hate about us.
You can't win that game.
There's no point in even engaging with it.
You have to go inward and love yourself, and you can't listen to those voices. You're right. If you check that, they'll come up with something else, and they do it.
It's the last ditch effort of these horrible, awful people. Like, they know their way is on the way out. Like, this is a scared animal trapped in a corner and lashing out with its last ditch effort. That's what all this is. And it's scary and it's awful when you're on a place, but this is not going to last. It's not the way things are going to go. It's going to get better. It is getting better. With the personal stuff, you do just have to forgive yourself. You didn't do anything wrong. Like, understand that. That's the first place to start. You did everything right. You weren't sure, so you didn't make a rash decision. And then when you were sure, you took the steps to transition. Yeah. You can't do it better than that. That's how it's done. That is the same correct way to transition.
If you want to feel better, talk to every trans woman in her 40s or 50s who didn't get a chance to transition because they knew before. You said 15, they knew when they were younger. I knew when I was younger.
Yeah, I knew real early on.
I didn't have that opportunity. I didn't know anything about being trans. I get it. I feel it, but I feel the same thing. And I wish, oh man, if 18, oh my gosh. Yeah. But
my goodness. Yeah. I could have done at 23, being 5 years into a transition. Yeah. Like what I could have accomplished in that regard. Holy moly. Everyone that transitions after puberty feels that same way. Like, that's a universal thing among all trans people, and the vast majority of people that do transition post puberty, because some people don't even figure it out till after then. Some people don't even figure it out till way later in life. Of those that are fortunate enough to both have figured it out pre-pubescence with supportive parents that are willing to help them, that's a unicorn. And And I would be willing to bet that a lot of the people that accomplish that get that very unique and privileged lot probably don't appreciate it as much as the rest of us that do it post and know what it's actually like to have to go through the wrong puberty and experience life in that way. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad for them or for us. I'm just saying there's all sorts of value in all sorts of different experience. And just because you waited an extra couple years to transition, we all did. Everyone did. Everyone waited longer than they wanted. That's part of it. It's still okay. Like, you're doing great. And you still transition super young and you're still going to look fantastic.
And there are people who, can't afford to transition, or they're in a space in their life where they can't transition, or there are people who detransition because it was right for them, but whatever the hate they got or whatever was going on in life, they had the
pressure, whatever
health, they couldn't stay on the medication.
A lot of that.
I think it's also important to realize, like, being trans isn't about taking medicine. It's not about having surgeries. It's you're trans, and how you can handle that medically. There are drugs you can take, but not everyone can do that. And so realizing, like, you can only do what's you're capable of at this point. And that's what you did, and you're going to be amazing.
And you already are, I bet.
Well, I'm sorry, bad me. You're not going to be amazing. You are amazing.
I think so many of us have it in our heads like that. A transition means you're starting as on one end of the gender spectrum and you're going to the other one, and that there's just some sort of checklist that you need to do to get there. I don't think that's the correct or the healthy way to think about it.
I think that comes from, we live in a country where we haven't honestly talked about it. Half the country is insane about it. And, you'll get questions from people like, well, when are you going to be done with your transition? It's like, the transition's never done. It's not a board game where you're rolling dice and moving ahead 6 and picking up a card and like, hey, it's my vaginoplasty. And then you're done. Yeah. It's, you're living your life.
Well, and that really is it. I think the transition ends when you feel comfortable, if it ends at all, because I've been transitioning 5.5 years now, and the rate at which I notice things that are different, it has dramatically dropped, but periodically I just there's a new thing. I've known people that have transitioned for a lot longer and have been 9 or 10 years into their transition who are still it keeps going.
It doesn't.
And you did start early, so you could have transitioned at 15, so you had to wait a few years. So 19, 20, wherever you're at now. In 10 years at 30, you're going to be almost certainly indistinguishable from a cis woman if that's what you want and if that's where you go. Even if you aren't, so what? There's nothing wrong with being trans, and looking as though you are transgender. There's nothing bad about it. 10 years from now, hopefully society will catch up with that.
Yeah, I think it's just important to keep in mind that kind of meshing our two things together. It's transitioning is not starting at point A and getting to point B. You weren't born a man and now I'm going to do all this stuff and become.
Yeah, it's not how it is. That's not how it works.
You're trans. You're not on this line. You're on this other line where you're just existing.
Yeah, being trans is that. You're just transgender. You're not going to ever be cis. So trying to achieve these standards of beauty or whatever you want to call them. Well, if I get this, then I'll be passing. It's convenient. It's nice. But most people do get there.
It is funny how TERFs talk about trans women have male privilege. Was the first thing they do is slap that beauty standards for women right on you that they hate so much. What was it? What was the one you just said? The knees?
Oh, the gametes or whatever. She said something so stupid. She just is stupid. She's an awful, horrible person.
She's like, oh, look, he's got a male shins.
Someone challenged her to define a woman that doesn't exclude cis women, and she couldn't do it. She spent 2 years and she finally came up with something, and it also didn't work.
She was in the same room as Dennis Miller coming up with that joke on Wednesday.
This is what she decides to do with her life and her time and her money. She's one of the most pathetic human beings for that.
If she wasn't a billionaire who could afford facial feminization surgery, she would probably be a woman who was at risk of being accused of being trans.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Because if you look at pictures of her before she became famous, same with Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota who wants to be vice president, they owe that to us. Facial feminization surgery is a thing because of us. No judgment on there, but they're the ones judging everyone else. So,
well, I'll judge their hypocrisy is what I'll do.
But I'm not going to judge that they had surgery.
Right, no, yeah,
what I'm saying is that
there's nothing wrong with that.
All these things you're worried about are out of your control, and assholes are going to be assholes. And it doesn't matter what you have done. If they find out, they'll make something up that they could tell, and who gives a shit what they think.
2 things.
Yeah.
1. You can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do.
That's a classic Lilith.
I know. Both of these are classics. Yeah. 2, you can't change the past. You can only take where you are and go forward. That's it. If you keep those 2 things in mind, you'll be fine. And we all have regrets, like, oh, if I'd only had done this, oh, if I'd only had done that, oh, if I had transitioned sooner. Everyone's got those. Trans and cis people, every human being has regrets. There's no benefit to dwelling on that. You can't do anything. The best you can do is learn from the mistakes that you made. And to be quite honest, you didn't make a mistake. You didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. You were 15 years old. You had just started figuring this out. Transitioning is not a small endeavor. That's not a willy-nilly whimsical choice that you make because you feel like it one day. It's a lifelong commitment that has immense and gigantic ramifications for not only for you, but for everyone who's ever known you in your entire life. There is nothing small about it. To maybe not rush into it and to think about it and make sure that you're sure before you take the plunge is actually the wise and smart way to go about it and doing it.
I think we answered the question, babe.
I think we answered I
think we did too.
Hey, all different versions of saying the same thing.
I want to hear your all's comments.
Yes, please.
Trans dudes who maybe have gone through the same thing. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, let us know.
We'd love to get some trans dudes on this show.
If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and we'll take them up on a future episode.
Absolutely. You can also, if you have a question that you'd like us to address, you can either leave it in the comment or you can hit us up at media@thetransverse.net. You can just, in the subject line, just put Transition Tuesday.
That'll get to us.
We do have a Patreon you can join. The Transverse does. That's patreon.com/thetransverse. If you subscribe to that, you can get access to exclusive content. Right now, it's a bunch of bonus videos from the transgender show and some other stuff, but there will be in perpetuity. We'll be getting stuff up there. Trust we just kind of started here.
There's a lot going. There's a lot going.
There's a lot happening behind the scenes, and the Transverse is expanding and growing, and there's all sorts of good things coming down the pike. We also do have a merch store. That's at thetransverse.etsy.com, and you can go there and get awesome Transverse merchandise and just cool trans stuff. You can watch the Transgender show live on Tuesday nights and at twitch.tv/thetransverse, and also all the episodes that are here on the Transverse and on YouTube. Also, if you'd like to be on this show or one of our other shows, if you're a trans man, we'd love to have you as a guest on Transition Tuesday to talk about your experiences and address some issues that trans men have. Because, we've got our perspective as trans women and it's different. Also, like NBs, non-binary people, come on in, let us know.
We take those questions, but yeah, I'd love to get perspective. Or if you want to be on one of our other shows, if you want to be on Who's That Turkey?
Yeah. We'd love to have you.
You should introduce yourself to that show and then see if you want to be on it.
All right.
We love y'all.
We love you.
Thank you for joining us. Bye.